As ADHDers, sometimes we have a very difficult time with emotion. Emotions can be very intense, and sometimes they hit us like a Mack truck.
No.
We're left afterwards trying to pick up the pieces. Sometimes they withdraw completely, and we're left feeling like we're in this black hole void. And sometimes it's really hard to feel any kind of pleasure in anything that we enjoy doing or used to have enjoyed doing. This can be a symptom of depression, but it can also be something else called anhedonia. Anhedonia is essentially just the inability to feel any kind of pleasure. And speaking of pleasure, this video is brought to you by AG0, which is the original. It's basically sticking fruit in a blender. And extra points if you drink it out of a mason jar. So scientists have done a lot of research into the ability or inability to feel pleasure, and they found out a lot of cool stuff.
Why do I bother?
And one of the things they found is if our lives are going really well, good job, good relationships, good family status, etc., our ability to feel pleasure in almost anything increases, which kind of seems like it's not really fair, but that's how it goes. They also discovered that our ability to feel pleasure is based entirely on how we perceive how far we have to go. For example, if you've just started doing a long distance run, the pleasure that you feel at the beginning of the run is going to be pretty minimal compared to the pleasure that you'll feel at the end of the run as you get closer to finishing. So being an engineer and doing a lot of math, we can break this down into kind of pleasure equals satisfaction divided by your total wants or your total desires. So how does this fit in with our running example? Well, your current tasks are, you barely started anything, but your total tasks is you have the entire length of the run to do. So your percentage of pleasure is going to be really small. So there's two ways that we can deal with this and increase the amount of pleasure we feel in our lives. The first one is increase the amount of satisfaction or increase the amount of things that we've done. That goes into those initial findings, right? The better your life is, the more you've accomplished, the more pleasure you're going to feel in everything. Unfortunately, that's kind of hard to do. We want to feel pleasure now, not years from now when we're still dealing with all this stuff. The other way to deal with this is to take the denominator and decrease it as much as possible. And what does that mean? It means decrease the amount of things that we want to do. Now, this might seem like an impossible thing to do for those of us who are neurospicy. We jump around from hobby to hobby like crazy. We're doing 20 different things all at the same time. But we can also use ADHD to make this happen, which is pretty cool. For us, it's out of sight, out of mind. We're focusing on the thing that we're doing now. We can put everything else out of our minds that we're not interested in doing, leave it on the list or on a calendar for a later date. You're going to have to play around with this and see what works well for you because everyone's ADHD is a little different. But if we hyper-focus intentionally on the thing that we're doing now, everything else leaves our mind. And we can really get some pleasure out of what we're doing at the time because there aren't any other desires or wants. We're dealing with what we're doing right now, which means our total wants decreases and our amount of pleasure increases.
I'm gonna have me some fun. I'm gonna have me some fun.
And if we have a bunch of unfulfilled wants or desires, that means that, you're not going to really do any of them. We're just going to get overwhelmed and we're going to shelve them all, intentionally or unintentionally. And the great part to all this is, as we work on that one thing, we get an increase of dopamine. Remember, dopamine isn't a pleasure hormone, it's the seeking hormone. We're trying to seek the thing. Then we get pleasure when we actually achieve that. That's a different set of hormones. And the more dopamine we get, the more we reinforce that seeking. And that just means that we're going to crave doing those things, which is great because our ambition will increase, our overwhelm will decrease, and we'll get more stuff done, which means we have more pleasure. And it turns into this vicious cycle of awesomeness.
He's too awesome!
attractive.
All of that being said, we really have to pay attention to if we lose interest in something as part of our ADHD. You can't force this, right? If we lose interest, maybe it's time to let that thing go. And that's okay. There's plenty of other things to do out there. That's another huge advantage of ADHD. We have to follow our interests, which means if we're not interested in something, it's really hard to do. And maybe that's our ADHD brains telling us it's time to shelve that thing, maybe come back to it later. But let's focus on something more fun and more interesting right now. It's like this awesome built-in compass where it's very, very difficult to go astray. So try it out. Focus on one thing at a time. Write the other stuff down so you're not gonna, well, we're gonna forget about them. That's kind of the point. We want to forget about them. But when we write them down, we can come back to them later and we don't have to worry about it. And that will decrease our anxiety too. So it's kind of a good thing all around. So decrease your total wants. Write all the stuff down that you want to do. Great. Save it for later. Focus on one thing at a time. And let me know in the comments how it goes. As always, glad you're here. I appreciate you. And I look forward to the next one where we engineer the crap out of ADHD.